So I've been playing way too much Battlefield 6 since it came out a few days ago. I've got over 30 hours in the game already, which is a ton. Not the best thing ever for me, but I've been having a good time. And I really wanted to just summarize what the experience has been like for multiplayer, because that's all I've been playing in those 30 plus hours so far. Been bouncing around between quite a few classes and game modes to get the feel of the game. And the overall impression is I've been having a lot of fun. But there are some nitpicks that I have, some specific maps that I'm not that big of a fan of, but others that do work quite well. And some of my kind of concerns about the game as a whole, and some of just the things that I think it's doing well. First off, I kind of want to establish where I'm coming from. I'm a longtime Battlefield fan. I've been playing on PC for basically the entire time, and my first game was playing Battlefield 1942, the original Battlefield game. My friend really was into that, into World War II stuff, so I played with him every now and then. But the Battlefield games that I really played the most were Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3. I absolutely love those games. And since then, I've kind of fallen off the franchise a bit. I played a bit of Battlefield 4, but those were the two that I really fell in love with and just sunk so many hours into. Mostly playing Assault and Recon in those games, which will kind of carry over to what I talk about here later for the classes. The thing that sticks with me the most from those games is the destruction, being able to blow cover up, and just the general good modern combat feel, slightly futuristic warfare in Bad Company 2, but nothing too crazy. And I think Battlefield 6 really does touch on those areas very well. But one thing that I think Battlefield 6 might be lacking, and I've seen quite a few people commenting on this, is that I think Battlefield 6 might be lacking in identity a bit. However, for the current era, I don't think that's a massive problem. You see, modern shooters are just by far the most popular right now. You look at Call of Duty, they've got all the modern warfare games, and Black Ops is not too distant of a future game that it's anything too crazy. It seems like Modern Warfare is really where the money is at for the multiplayer shooter at the time. And obviously Battlefield's going to try to make a very successful game coming off of 2042, so that's what they're going to go for. While I don't think Battlefield 2042 was a very good game, it was definitely going for some things that gave it that identity. It didn't have classes, it had specialists instead. And it also had this kind of goofy, not super serious vibe, with the specialist saying some stupid lines that still stick with me to this day.
Don't be sad.
So I guess the problem here with identity comes from me looking back at the franchise, especially at a game that I didn't play that much, but I think has a super strong identity in Battlefield 1. That kind of alternate history World War I setting was so unique and gave the game such a defining identity. And for Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3, I don't really think those games maybe had such a super strong identity. I think it was just so Battlefield and a marketplace that Battlefield stand out a lot more. I think as we've gone on, Call of Duty's gotten very popular, but it's still missing that stuff that Battlefield has where you have destruction. However, with game modes like Battle Royale, the battlegrounds have gotten much larger, the maps have gotten much larger, and that's kind of worked its way into some Battlefield players' hearts maybe, where you have this larger map that you can kind of do more on. For me, what Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 really provided were so many of those Battlefield moments, and in Battlefield 6, we definitely still get that, but I think it's more so on specific maps like Operation Firestorm, which is actually a Battlefield 3 map originally, right? I think with some maps, like Cairo, you don't get that as much. It's a lot more closer of a warfare, a lot more chaotic, which the chaos is definitely a part of Battlefield, but I feel like those maps don't provide as much of that Battlefield DNA, but it's honestly a good thing to keep the variety in there and mix things up. I didn't play a ton of Battlefield 4 multiplayer, but that game also had a strong identity in Levolution, these big scripted set pieces. So with Battlefield 6, we do have a little bit of that. I'm going to talk about maps now because I kind of touched on it earlier. So for maps, the big map that has kind of this set piece thing is Mirak Valley, right? You've got a big crane in the center of the map that provides a lot of good coverage for snipers, a lot of good vision. But you can take that crane out and it collapses into the building. And that's honestly the map that has by far the biggest gimmick or set piece out of anything so far, and that gives that map a very strong identity. The other map that kind of has a gimmick going on is Operation Firestorm, where you've got this big kind of fuel tower in the middle of the map. And on that, you can turn it on and it'll turn the burners on and it'll just like burn enemies off the top of the tower. And that's kind of cool, but it's very small. There's nothing so major where it like alters the level of the playing field with these giant set pieces or anything. And I don't really feel like I love that a ton, like the big set piece thing. It's very gimmicky to me. But what it does do is it gives a map a very strong identity. A lot of these maps so far kind of put you on either end and then really have you go down 2 to 3 lanes, which doesn't give a ton of room for maneuvering around. You have something like Manhattan Bridge where you have the middle lane with the underpass and then either side, but that's really it. Or Liberation Peak where you have both the spawns and then you're forced up or down. A lot of these maps feel that way so far. Something that's great that's featured across almost all the maps, though, is that they have a lot of destructible buildings, some buildings that you can totally blow up or blow whole chunks off of. The battlefield looks different from the start of the battle to the end of the battle, which really is part of the Battlefield DNA, and they nail that here. You look at something like Siege of Cairo, which is honestly probably my least favorite map, but that whole center area looks completely different from when you start to when you end a mission, because there's just so much chaos, so much explosions going on, and people trying to blow out cover that that whole center area just looks like a war zone by the end of it. So I kind of want to rate the maps now, and I'll mostly be talking in the context of playing large format game modes, because that's mostly what I play. I have been playing some smaller stuff and having fun there too, but I want to focus on the big maps, because really the small game modes just take little chunks of those maps. So my favorite map overall is Operation Firestorm. It's by far the biggest map. It's more wide open, but it still kind of funnels down into certain points, especially through the middle of the map. If you go out kind of in the dune area, you're in kind of no man's land, and you can get picked off by snipers from all around the map very easily. And another thing I really like about Operation Firestorm is that vehicles really shine here, especially air vehicles. Since it's more open in some areas, you can go on great strafing runs with the helicopters or the planes and really do some serious damage, or you can get some great cover deep and just do some work with a sniper. I mostly play recon. I just love sniping in Battlefield games, and this is basically the only map that it's somewhat feasible to get this 200-meter headshot challenge on. I'll talk about progression too in a little bit, but it being such a massive map, it feels nice to snipe on because you're far enough away that you can get some crazy headshots. My biggest headshot so far has been about 540 meters, where I crashed a plane on a mountain and just shot somebody super far away, and man, that felt great to hit. So yeah, Operation Firestorm is definitely my favorite map in the game so far, and from my friends that I've been playing with, I think they agree with me. One of my friends that doesn't really play a ton of Battlefield games said Operation Firestorm is his favorite map too, because we were just having so much fun with the helicopter and everything there. So while Operation Firestorm I'd say is like the highest tier for me, the next 3 maps I could really go with whatever depending on what class I'm playing. They kind of rotate. It's Manhattan Bridge, Liberation Peak, and then also Mirak Valley. I enjoy all these maps quite a bit. Mirak Valley is nice and big also. It's not massive like Firestorm is, but you can still get good distance here, and then if you go into the buildings, you can get that nice closer quarter combat, especially on the lower levels of the buildings. It's really fun here grabbing a helicopter, flying around, or doing some anti-air work, taking a helicopter up and then jumping out to kind of get a drop on all the snipers that get up there. And like I mentioned earlier, Mirak Valley also has that crane, which you can shoot down. I've only seen it shot down in one of the matches I've played so far, but I don't know if everybody's really aware of that yet. And honestly, when I'm a sniper and I go up there, I usually tend to get picked off pretty fast, so we'll see how I feel about the crane going forward, but I honestly don't think as many people use it because it's just so easy to get shot from everywhere on the map up there. Liberation Peak was obviously in the beta, and I enjoy this map a lot. I do think that it basically just funnels you through 2 of the areas. You can fight down by the buildings or up at the, I believe it's E point, where you have a good view of both of the headquarters. One thing I'll really say about this map, though, is that if you're playing Breakthrough and you're on the offense, we haven't done it so far where we've taken F point. I believe that's the final point. When you're on the offense, that last defense point is just so hard to take. The enemy headquarters is so close. The enemy starts with such advantageous terrain that it is just so hard. We've basically like boot stomped enemies the whole way through the entire map, and then that last point is just so much harder to take. So I don't really know what can be done there so much, but I do think that the defenders probably have a way higher winning percentage on that specific map. And then lastly here, we also have Manhattan Bridge, which is a map that I really enjoy playing Engineer on specifically. I think this map is really fun because it has a lot of interior areas that you can go through. There's the buildings with all the zip lines and rappel ropes that you can zip up. So super fun, nice urban combat feeling. And I think that Sea Point is that one with that tunnel. Wow, things get so hectic there. It's great when you kind of have people on both sides fighting through, and then you can get a flank on one of the edges and just take people out through the sides that aren't paying attention. So I think this map is a ton of fun to play on. The tanks and everything feel fun in the urban environment, and there's more opportunity to hide mines here, I'd say, or get a jump on tanks because it's just a lot more dense feeling. I do think that air vehicles are a little bit more difficult here to use, but on B Point, I believe that's the one that has the high ground that you can rappel up to. If you get a chopper and fly over B Point when there's a ton of snipers on there, you can just massacre the enemy and get so many kills really fast. So I'm really enjoying Manhattan Bridge. Always a fun one when it pops up to play on. I don't really have that much to say about Iberian Offensive. It's an okay map for like the bigger game modes, but it's pretty fun to play on Breakthrough, honestly, though. Some of these points, like Sea Point, can get super chaotic with just everybody fighting in this tiny courtyard coming from every angle. So I think it's really fun when I was playing like a squad deathmatch with all my friends. I think it really shined there. So that one's always okay to play on. But now I want to talk about the maps that I don't think are the best here. New Sobek City. I don't really like this map. I just feel like there's so many tall buildings, and basically you're in a tall building or you're out in the open and you're just getting picked off constantly super fast. So we'll see if things change with my opinion there. I think this is a fun one if you are in a helicopter, but definitely one of my least favorite maps. And then I think Siege of Cairo is also down there. It's just, it feels very tight, super tight. It's still fun. All the maps are still fun to play on, I think, but there's just not enough of that kind of variety where you can run around to different points in different areas of the map and get a totally different feeling. It's just smaller, especially with like Siege of Cairo. There's no air vehicles, so it's all infantry or tanks, and the tanks there can be so big. My favorite point to fight for there, though, is A Point. There's kind of that square that's more flat, and then kind of two big funnels into the area, and then one through the building. That's actually my favorite point by far to fight for in that map. And I do think that the middle of the map can be pretty chaotic and fun, though, but it's just a little bit too much and not enough of a big area. All right, now that I've kind of given my thoughts on the maps, I want to talk about the classes specifically here. So by far the class I've been playing the most is Recon. I think Recon's fun here, but I won't lie, I miss my tactical insertion, my spawning beacon. Kind of feels rough when you're in a very good spot, you die, and then you gotta get all the way back up there. I do think it's kind of a good thing too, though, because that way it's harder for people to just camp one spot of the map the entire time, but I don't know if moving it to Assault is the best thing ever. We'll talk about Assault in a little bit here too. I think the snipers, they're fun, they're good to use. You have to get used to the sweet spots, and I unlocked that second sniper that has the long range sweet spot instead of the extreme distance one, and that sniper feels really good to use on a lot of maps. And now I'm trying to grind for the third sniper, which you have to get 200 meter headshots on, 200 of those, and that is just super brutal, super hard. But once you get your sniper set up right with all the attachments, things feel pretty good. Still getting used to hitting kind of the upper bodies at the right distance, but getting headshots feels great when you get them. Definitely takes a long time for bullets to travel super far. And I still kind of think there's that same issue where if I'm using like my SMG, the bullets are like laser beams compared to how my sniper bullet feels, but it's just all kind of around balancing and everything. I wish there was a way to get my bullet velocity maybe even faster, because it still feels pretty slow even with basically all the attachments I can use to get bullet velocity up on the extreme distance snipers. But still been having a lot of fun playing sniper. I think I need to take a break from Recon because I was grinding it pretty hard there for a while, and I've been having honestly more fun with Engineer lately, which I've been playing quite a bit. And on that class, I've been using kind of the UMP 45. I think they call it like the UMG 9 here. Slower fire rate, but it kicks ass at mid-range with that slower fire rate. Super easy to control with mouse and keyboard. Burst it out. I've been putting in work with that gun. Really enjoy it. One thing I will say about most of the classes besides recon is that there's a lot of weapon variety, which feels super good. A lot of SMGs, assault rifles, carbines, and everything. Kind of a bummer with the recon that there's only 3 snipers. And honestly, the one you have to grind for, its specs are very similar to the first rifle you get. So I feel like I'm going to grind for it and unlock it and be like, was that really worth the wait? Whereas the second sniper you get from just leveling up definitely has way more of a distinct feeling from the first one, mostly because of that change of the sweet spot distance. So jumping back to recon, I don't really see any shortage of people playing recon right now. There always seems to be a lot of people repairing vehicles, and I think as the days have progressed here, even in the early stages, people have got better at playing their class roles. One thing I will say is that there are so many anti-tank mines, because that's one of the first gadgets you get with recon, and you get so many that you can put down that when you're in a vehicle, you have to be just keeping your eyes open constantly. I basically play in first person anytime I'm on a road, so I can spot those AT mines and blow them up, because they're just everywhere. And then the first RPG you get is the Law, but honestly, as soon as I unlocked the regular, just like Free Fire RPG, that's all I've been using. When you have those kind of launchers that can lock on to air vehicles, I've noticed that the air vehicles, the cooldown for their countermeasures is so short. But I kind of get it, because when I'm flying around there in the sky, it does feel like you're getting targeted a lot. But I think that you just have to be a better pilot, because you can get low to the ground and then other people can't target you, or you can kind of just do more evasive maneuvers and get behind buildings to break that line of sight. So I think maybe increasing the cooldown length on the countermeasures for air vehicles is important, because I feel like I can never get a lock-on hit, and I just have better luck free firing or using a vehicle. Support, I honestly really haven't played that much of. The LMGs are pretty fun, and obviously reviving people is great. As of right now, I think people are actually doing a pretty good job playing support. Those first 2 days, though, I was like, I feel like I'm not getting a revive anywhere out here. But I think people maybe started realizing that this isn't Call of Duty, and that you actually get a lot more points by playing objective and reviving people and playing your role. You'll end up way further up on the leaderboard than just trying to mow people down and get kills. So I feel like there's actually a lot of people playing support, which is nice. There's always a lot of portable cover going on, a lot of ammo and health packs around, and people actually reviving each other, which is great. And now we're going to talk about Assault, because I feel like Assault is the class that has the biggest problem right now. And like, what does Assault really give you? The main thing it gives you is that you can have 2 primaries, but by doing so, you actually drastically reduce your ammo. So when I was grinding the DMR challenge, the main thing I was doing is I was playing Assault with a close range gun and then the DMR, and I was playing Hardcore Conquest so I could get one-shot headshots with the DMR. But I don't think that the latter is like, it's fun, but it's really buggy. Whenever I like get on the ladder, like I feel like a third of the time I'm just like rubber banded off of the ladder to one of the sides, or like you kind of lock into the climbing animation and you can't just like walk up a bit and shoot over the cover. So I feel like the Assault ladder is very like interesting use cases. Maybe in Battle Royale, it will be a bit more useful in getting to interesting positions. Mostly I've been using the HE grenade launcher as the gadget since I unlocked it, which I think is pretty good. But overall, I get so few grenade kills from either the grenade launchers or just regular grenades that I feel like maybe their blast radius needs to get slightly increased, or their damage radius does. But that's also kind of a scary territory to balance, because then Battlefield, there's just so many explosions everywhere that it's definitely a difficult thing to do. There is that breach launcher with the Assault class that I've used a little bit. Once again, I think that's a lot better for tactical game modes like Squad Deathmatch, or I think when the Battle Royale comes out, that will be a lot better there. But I feel like Assault really, it needs something else beyond what it has right now to make it more fun to play, to give it a stronger identity, because it kind of just feels like it's the 4th class. You got the 3 strong identity classes, and then you kind of have Assault. The shotgun does rip. It doesn't rip as hard as it did during the beta, which I think is a good thing, because in the beta it was honestly super overtuned. I haven't been using it that much lately since the game fully came out, but I'll definitely do some more CQC stuff with that gun because it's just fun. All right, now I'm going to talk about progression and kind of the grind. So I think I'm level 36 right now, having put in over 30 hours. I've used basically every XP booster that I've got my hands on, and it's fun. I think that I don't mind it being such a long grind for levels and everything, but obviously I am putting so much time into this game that most people can't actually do right now, so it will definitely feel slow. And one thing that does feel slow is weapon progression. Wow, some of these guns take so long to unlock stuff on. Like, I'll play like 3 or 4 matches and then check my my submachine gun that I'm using for my engineer, and I'm like, nothing has changed here. I can't really like modify anything that I've done here. Some of them also like come with sights that I really just don't like, so you're just gonna have to suffer through it for a while to get something that you actually prefer. With the sniper, I basically got it set up the way I want it, and it didn't take too long. But some of them, for like the ADS deadbolt, the straight draw on it, so you can stay scoped in, that did take a while, and that does require a lot of points. I think weapon customization is super fun too. Most weapons have so many different attachments and things you can put on them. Some things I was super surprised at too, like the flashlight is very surprisingly effective. You come around the corner with a flashlight on, and it really kind of stuns the enemy there for a second and makes it a lot harder for them to shoot you well. So I'm looking forward to getting that on my pistol for my recon class, because I think that's actually going to make a lot of difference in the close quarters combat. And the laser sights feel great. Hip fire on a lot of the guns too feels super, super accurate, and you don't even need that many attachments to make them feel laser accurate at the hip. So some of these challenges too, like the DMR one, you're definitely just going to want to play specific game modes. So the DMR one of them was get 100 shots of the DMR. But if you're playing regular kind of modes, getting a headshot with the DMR, even the ones that do high damage, will not get you a one-shot kill. So what I'd recommend doing for that, and that's what I did, is I played Hardcore Conquest, which is actually super fun. And then there you can get one-shot headshots, and that will make that go way faster. So I highly recommend playing the game modes. If you're trying to grind for a challenge, play the right game modes. And people, honestly, too, in the portal, you can check on like portal things if they let you progress your challenges or anything like that. There are definitely game modes that people are setting up specifically for grinding. So if you really want a specific gun or something, maybe check that out. But for things like my sniper, that's 200 meters, 200 headshots, that is just going to take forever. And like I said, I don't even know if it's going to be worth it at the end there. So the gun leveling is just super slow. But I do think it's important for them to have those long-term grind challenges that you can keep coming back to work on, because you don't want a ton of these really small ones. Nice that we have dailies and weeklies and stuff, but you need a lot of content there for people that are just going to play this game nonstop all the time to keep working for. All right, and now we're on the game modes. So my favorite game modes so far have definitely just been Conquest, Hardcore Conquest, and then I really like Escalation too. I kind of warmed up to it. Some things that I'm kind of disappointed by is I don't really like Rush. Rush used to be one of my favorite game modes, especially in Bad Company 2. And I think in that one you could actually put C4 on the objective to blow it up really fast. But Rush, like the first area of Rush, oh my goodness. It is just like so many people and just a meat grinder. It feels like you're just running into a wall of guns. So when the map starts opening up a little more and you have more objectives, it becomes more fun. But I've only played Rush when there's a challenge for it, because I just don't like it that much right now. Just too meat grindery. And then another thing here that I really got to talk about is that obviously Battlefield 6, I guess one of the things for the identity that it's doing is that it's moving away from having weapons closed to certain classes and moving more towards an open weapon system. I'm kind of mixed on this. Obviously, if you do that, you need more ways to define your class identity, which classes like recon, engineer, and support have. One thing with recon that I'll say too is that there's really fun gadgets for vision. You know, recon, reconnaissance, it's in the name. You're doing vision, and a lot of people play that class just for sniping, where you can actually get so many points using the drone, getting vision on stuff. You can really help your team a lot just by playing recon, by actually playing as a reconnaissance instead of just a sniper. Whereas assault, I mean, you kind of take away the closed weapons of assault rifles being on there, and it feels like the lack in identity stands out more. So I've definitely got mixed feelings. Like my new buddy that's, well, not my new buddy, my buddy that's kind of new to Battlefield, more so than me and my other friends. He's been playing support, but he's been working on AR challenges, so he's been playing support with AR, which I think is cool, because he likes it better than the LMG, and he can work on the AR challenges while still like reviving people, which is super important role. But then it's like, why would people even play Assault? Everybody will just play support with an AR because you get more ammo and you get more utility. So that's kind of my feelings on the closed weapons. And also, I've been playing a decent amount of all-out warfare that's on the closed weapons, and oh my god, there are so many bots in there. It feels like everybody else is just playing every other game mode, and that there's just been a shortage of players to populate those servers that are closed. I'll put up some footage here of me playing all-out warfare closed weapons on Operation Firestorm. Lobby took forever to fill, and then it just auto-populated with so many bots. And often by the time of like the end of the match, it'll be not as bad, but even this time, it was like, wow. Just tons and tons and tons of bots. And definitely a lot of these Portal games, they just get auto-filled with a ton of bots. It almost makes me feel like I'm playing Titanfall with like the free kills you can kind of get on the random NPCs wandering around. Because you would definitely notice like a player versus a bot just in how they control and play in Battlefield 6 here. So I think there's a little bit too much of that bot autofill. I mean, it's nice you can play the game modes you want, but it makes a difference. And it also makes it really easy for people to farm certain challenges if they just want to kill a bunch of bots, because it counts and you can still get the same amount of score off of it. One thing some of my friends have been talking about that they really appreciate here about some of the game modes is that they feel like comebacks are a lot more possible than they were in some previous Battlefield games, especially in the case of Escalation. I think Escalation is really fun just because you get this really big flow of just these waves of troops going between the objectives, especially when the map gets smaller and smaller. You know, there's fewer and fewer points, but more and more vehicles. It feels like this crazy amount of warfare, this huge siege going on. So I really like Escalation for that. And I've definitely had Escalation games where we lose the first 2 points super fast, and then we come back and win the next 3 and win the match ultimately. So that game mode definitely has that way more, and that's because that game mode doesn't have any tickets either. Still with Conquest, once you start, getting 100 or so tickets ahead, it can be hard to come back. And DICE actually just released an update that they're going to change the amount of tickets. They're going to drop them a little bit more, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I tend to like long matches, but we'll see how people feel about it and how things keep going from here. One of the last things I want to discuss before I start wrapping it up is the bugs and performance. And overall, the launch has been pretty good. Definitely one of the better Battlefield launches. And on the performance front, things are running great. I do have a pretty high spec PC with a 7950X 3D and a RTX 4090, so I expect it to get great performance. And yeah, with DLSS at around balanced mode at 4K and things set to ultra, I'm getting well over 100 frames per second, so really no concerns there. And from all the feedback I've seen, it really seems like people are satisfied with how the game's optimized and runs on their machines. And that's something that DICE is definitely known for. They are the ones that make Frostbite, so they can really tune that engine for exactly what they need the game to do. Performance for games on PC has been kind of a really big topic lately, and rightfully so, with a lot of things like shader compilation stutter or traversal stutter in Unreal Engine 5 games, and some of that's even present on the console with the traversal stutter. But I think that Steam, the community there, has been very vocal on reviews if the game has performance problems. And Battlefield 6 right now is sitting at very positive. Just seen a lot of good feedback on the Steam reviews about performance, so it goes to show that if your game ships in a good technical state, that people will really appreciate it, and that the word of mouth really goes a long way in doing the marketing for your game and getting people to buy it. So while servers have been stable and performance has been great, the game has not been without bugs. Nothing too severe, but one of the ones that I noticed the most is actually pretty annoying. On Operation Firestorm, on Conquest, one half of the map basically doesn't get helicopter spawns. And as you can imagine, that makes a pretty big difference in terms of how much impact you can have on the battlefield. So usually the other team just has a pretty big advantage there. Another bug that I've been noticing is that sometimes the ticket counter on the scoreboard will just show 0 for one of the teams. And I have a clip here of that too. These are really the two biggest bugs I've encountered with the game. And like I said, it's nothing too severe. There is some other little annoying stuff, like when you unlock attachments for your weapons, it seems like you can't really equip them until you're done with your match, because they'll show up in your weapon modification screen, but if you try to equip them there, it kind of auto detaches, and then once the match is over, it's fine. So there's certainly some little things too that stop this from being a totally seamless experience, but compared to some of the Battlefield launches I've gone through, this is just in a very good state in comparison. All right, so now just kind of closing things up, summarizing and saying what I want going forward. Game's a ton of fun. Definitely some concerning things still. Some of the maps, not the biggest fan of. Some class identity with Assault needs to kind of get fixed. But I think this is a great base, and I'm really looking forward to what they do in the future. One thing that I was thinking about that I think they'll definitely do is you'll notice if you are playing the game for the XP thing, if you look at it, you get 5% bonus XP for owning the game. And that makes me think that they're going to release Battle Royale for free. And I think that makes sense. Most Battle Royales for free, and that way people can kind of get their foot in there. Obviously, Call of Duty does the same thing, where multiplayer you have to pay money, Battle Royale is free. So I think they're probably going to do a similar kind of strategy with Battlefield here, and I wouldn't really mind that so much either. I don't tend to be the biggest Battle Royale fan, but I really like mid to long range encounters in Battlefield, and I think Battle Royale and Battlefield with those giant maps is just like a great pairing, especially with like the destruction you can do to buildings. So I'm really looking forward to playing that. And I do have a full squad of friends that play with me pretty often, so we'll definitely squad up for that when that comes out. DICE 2 have a update coming in about 2 weeks from now. A new map, some new guns, new sniper, thankfully. So I'm really looking forward to just the constant stream of content coming into the game. Hopefully some more bigger maps, please, I beg you. But it's nice to see that they're just going to really support this game. And, you know, on Steam, this had a massive launch, just kind of historical for the franchise and just any FPS game really on Steam. So it's a great sign. Just please keep supporting this game. What we've got right now is a super strong base. Keep fixing bugs. I think some things like hit detection need to get fixed up some more too. So keep improving the game. Response seems to be positive from the community. Keep working on the game and making fixes that the community really kind of pushes for, and you're going to earn so much good trust from the community. And I really just want to say that as far as Battlefield launches go, there's been so many disasters. I think 3 didn't have the best launch ever, where as far as like it was kind of the server problems. 4 definitely was a disaster at launch, but this launch, the first day I logged in, I was like, oh my god, 250,000 people queue. 5 minutes later, I'm in the game. And since then, the servers have felt just like rock solid stable. So as far as the launch goes, you nailed it. From here, you know, just keep improving the game and don't make smaller maps. More big maps, please. That's about it. Kind of just going off the top of my head here. No script or anything, just had some notes. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. I might make more Battlefield 6 content, but more so what I do here is retrospectives on older games. But this game is just such a big one for me as a Battlefield fan, a longtime Battlefield fan, that I feel like I owed it to the franchise to make a video on it. All right, my dog here is getting very upset with me, so it's time to take him out and wrap this one up. Have a good one. Later.